Story 1. I've been a delivery driver for fast furniture for just over 2 years now. It's not a glamorous job, but it pays the bills while I finish my degree in mechanical engineering. Most days are pretty routine: load the truck, follow the delivery schedule, drop off furniture, get signatures, repeat. The company policy is crystal clear: we deliver to the door or room of choice. But assembly is a separate service that customers have to schedule and pay for in advance. Most people understand this. The policy is explained during online checkout, printed on the receipt, and I always confirm it before unloading. Just delivery today, correct? No assembly scheduled? 9 times out of 10, customers nod and life goes on. Then there was last Tuesday. I'd already completed 6 deliveries that morning when I pulled up to a large suburban house with perfect landscaping and a luxury SUV in the driveway. My digital manifest showed a sectional sofa and coffee table for delivery to the living room. No assembly service had been purchased. This was a relatively new development. All houses still had that fresh paint smell and immaculate lawns. I rang the doorbell and waited, adjusting my company cap and making sure my body cam was on. Yeah, we wear body cams now. Company policy changed last year after too many disputes about damaged items and undelivered packages. The camera activates automatically when I scan a package for delivery and stays on until I get the confirmation signature. The door swung open to reveal a woman in her 40s, wearing yoga pants, a designer sweater, and an expression that immediately set off warning bells. Some delivery drivers can smell a difficult customer from a mile away, and I developed that sixth sense too. Me, good morning. I have a fast furniture delivery for this address. A sectional sofa and coffee table. Karen, looking past me at the truck finally. I've been waiting all morning. Bring it in and set it up in the living room. Me, I can definitely bring it to your living room. Ma'am, just to confirm, there's no assembly service scheduled for today. If you'd like to schedule assembly, you can do that through customer service. Her smile vanished so quickly I almost heard it snap. Karen, what are you talking about? Of course you're assembling it. That's your job. Me, keeping my tone friendly, I'm happy to deliver your furniture to any room, but assembly is a separate service. It would have been an additional option during checkout. Karen, crossing her arms, I paid nearly $2,000 for this furniture. You're telling me that doesn't include putting it together? Me, the delivery is included in your purchase, but assembly is a separate service. It's noted in the checkout process and on your receipt. Karen, voice rising, this is absurd. I have guests coming over tonight. What am I supposed to do with boxes? Me, I understand that's frustrating. If you'd like, I can help you schedule an assembly service. They might even have availability today. Karen, suddenly switching tactics, voice softening, listen. What was your name again? Me, it's on my badge. I'm the delivery driver assigned to your order today. Karen, with a forced smile, look, I'm a single mom, and I really need this furniture set up today. Can't you just do it this once? I'll make it worth your while. I've got cash. Me, I'm sorry, but I'm not authorized to do assembly without it being scheduled through the company. It's a liability issue. I could lose my job. Her expression hardened again. Karen, get the furniture inside. Now. Not wanting to escalate the situation, I nodded and went back to the truck. I loaded the first box onto my dolly and wheeled it to the door. She directed me to a spacious living room, empty except for some boxes from other deliveries. I brought in all 4 boxes that made up her order, placing them exactly where she indicated. Me, taking out my tablet, if you could just sign here, confirming delivery. Karen, I'm not signing anything until you set it up. Me, staying professional, I understand you're disappointed, but I can only provide the delivery service. If you refuse to sign, I'll have to note that the delivery was refused and return the items to our warehouse. She stared at me for a long moment. Then something changed in her expression. Karen, fine. I need to use the bathroom. I'll sign when I get back. She walked out of the living room. I heard footsteps on stairs, then silence. After about 5 minutes of waiting, I called out, "Me, ma'am? Are you coming back to sign for the delivery?" No response. I walked to the bottom of the stairs. "Me, hello? I need your signature to complete the delivery." Still nothing. I returned to the living room and tried calling the customer service number she had provided during purchase. It went straight to voicemail. This was getting weird. I decided to leave, planning to mark the delivery as "customer unavailable to sign" in the system. But when I tried the front door, it wouldn't open. I checked the knob locked. I tried the deadbolt, also locked. Had she seriously locked me in her house? Me, calling out louder, "Ma'am, the door seems to be locked. I need to leave for my next delivery." I heard footsteps coming back down the stairs, and she reappeared, holding a glass of water and looking completely unbothered. "Karen. Oh, I must have locked it out of habit. I'll let you out after you've assembled my furniture." I blinked in disbelief. Me, did you just lock me in your house? Karen, smiling, I paid for full service, and that's what I expect to receive. The instructions are right there in the boxes. It shouldn't take you more than an hour. Me, ma'am, this is illegal. You can't keep me here against my will. Please unlock the door immediately. Karen, rolling her eyes, don't be so dramatic. I'm not keeping you against your will. I'm just making sure you do your job properly. If you'd done it right the first time, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Me, this isn't part of my job. Please unlock the door now, or I'll have to call the police. Karen, laughing, go ahead and call them. I'll tell them you came into my house and are refusing to leave. Who do you think they'll believe? A respectable homeowner or some delivery guy? Her smug expression made my stomach turn. I pulled out my phone. Karen, suddenly looking concerned, what are you doing? Me, calling my supervisor to report that a customer has locked me in their house and is refusing to let me leave. Karen, stepping toward me, give me that phone. Me, backing away, please don't come any closer. Karen, voice rising to a shout, you can't call anyone. You know what? I'm calling the police myself. I'll tell them you tried to steal from me, and now you're refusing to leave my house. How's that sound? Or I could say you threatened me. It's your word against mine. Me, actually, it's not. I tapped my body cam, which had been recording the entire interaction. Me, company policy. Everything from the moment I scanned your packages for delivery has been recorded. Her face went through a remarkable series of expressions: shock, disbelief, anger, and finally, a desperate attempt at damage control. Karen, forcing a laugh, I was just joking around. Can't you take a joke? Of course I'm not keeping you here. The door sticks sometimes, that's all. She walked to the door and made a show of jiggling the handle. Karen, see, so silly of me. I forgot I locked it when you came in. She unlocked the door, swinging it open with an exaggerated gesture. Karen, there you go. All a big misunderstanding. Now, about my furniture. Me, I'll need you to sign for the delivery, please. Karen, sweetly, and then you'll assemble it? Me, no, ma'am. After you sign, I'll be leaving. If you refuse to sign, I'm authorized to take the furniture back to the warehouse. Her sweet demeanor vanished instantly. Karen, get out of my house. Take your cheap furniture with you. I'm calling your manager, the CEO, and my lawyer. Me, so you're refusing the delivery? Karen, no, I'm keeping the furniture. I paid for it. But I'm going to make sure you never work in this town again. Me, I need a signature, or I need to return the items. Karen, screaming, now get out. Me, I'll need to take the furniture then. Karen, blocking the living room entrance, don't you dare touch my furniture. Me, it's not your furniture until you sign for it. Karen, pulling out her phone, that's it. I'm calling the police. I'll tell them you broke in and now you're trying to kidnap me. At this point, I decided to back off. This situation was spiraling dangerously. Me, I'm going to step outside and call my supervisor. The bodycam footage will show everything that's happened here. I walked out the front door and immediately called my supervisor, explaining the situation. He told me to wait in the truck and that he would contact both the customer service department and, if necessary, the local police. 20 minutes later, a police car pulled up. My heart sank, assuming Karen had called them with some fabricated story. The officer approached my truck, and I rolled down the window. "Officer, are you the delivery driver who called about being locked in a house?" That's when I realized my supervisor had called them, not Karen. After explaining the situation and showing the bodycam footage, the officer went to speak with Karen. I couldn't hear their conversation, but from my truck, I could see her gesturing wildly through the window, pointing at me repeatedly. The officer returned about 10 minutes later. "Officer, I've reviewed your footage and spoken with a customer. She claims it was all a misunderstanding, but the video clearly shows her admitting to locking you in and threatening to make false reports. That's unlawful detention and filing a false police report, both criminal offenses." To my surprise, the officer returned to the house and, after another brief conversation, escorted Karen out in handcuffs. She was still yelling about her furniture as they put her in the back of the patrol car. My supervisor arrived shortly after and instructed me to bring the furniture back to the warehouse. The order was canceled, and Karen was issued a refund minus a restocking fee. I later learned she was charged with unlawful detention and attempted filing of a false police report. She pled guilty to reduced charges and received community service and probation. The company implemented a new safety protocol after this incident, including panic buttons on our delivery apps and strict guidelines about when to leave potentially dangerous situations. As for me, I got a commendation for handling the situation professionally and was promoted to training new drivers specifically on how to deal with difficult customers and when to prioritize personal safety over completing a delivery. The bodycam footage became part of our training program, with Karen's face and address properly blurred, of course. Legal department's orders. I still deliver furniture, but now I have a foolproof way to shut down assembly requests. Company policy changed after a customer was arrested for locking a driver in her house. That usually ends the conversation pretty quickly. Story 2. I've worked at the Oak Ridge Public Library for almost 7 years now. I started as a part-time shelver during college and worked my way up to children's librarian, my dream job. There's nothing I love more than connecting young readers with books that might spark their imagination or teach them something new. Our children's section is my pride and joy: colorful bean bags, low shelves perfect for small hands to reach, and a carefully curated collection that I refresh regularly. Working in a public library, you encounter all sorts of people. Most are wonderful, grateful parents, excited kids, seniors looking for large print editions. But occasionally, you meet someone who makes you question your career choice. Someone like the woman I now refer to in my head as the book bandit. It started on a Tuesday afternoon, during our weekly story time session. I had just finished reading Where the Wild Things Are to a group of enraptured preschoolers when I noticed her. A woman in her mid-40s with an expensive haircut and designer clothes that seemed out of place in our modest community library. She wasn't with any children, which wasn't necessarily unusual. Adults often browse while waiting for story time to end. What caught my attention was how she was examining our shelves, pulling books out, flipping through them, and then placing them in a large designer tote bag instead of back on the shelf. At first, I assumed she was selecting books to check out, though her methodical approach seemed odd. After story time wrapped up and the children dispersed with their parents, I approached her with my standard helpful librarian smile. "Me, finding everything okay? I'd be happy to help you locate specific titles." She looked up, startled, as if she hadn't expected to be addressed. "Woman, oh, I'm fine. Just looking through your selection. It's adequate, I suppose." There was something condescending in her tone that immediately put me on edge. "Me, are you finding books for your children? We just got some new picture books that have been very popular." Woman, my children deserve only the best educational materials. I'm just making sure these meet my standards before I let them read them. Me, Well, when you're ready to check out, the circulation desk is right over there. She gave me a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Woman, of course. Thank you. I returned to reshelving books, but kept an eye on her. She continued to place books in her bag, not one or two, but several. When her large tote seemed full, she simply walked toward the exit, bypassing the circulation desk entirely. Our library has security gates that beep when non-checked-out materials pass through, but they've been malfunctioning that week. I hurried after her. Me. Excuse me, you need to check those books out before taking them. She turned, looking offended. Woman, I'm not taking them. I'm borrowing them. Isn't that what a library is for? Me. Yes, but you need to register them in our system so we know who has them and when they're due back. Woman, I don't have time for all that bureaucracy today. My children need these materials for a homeschool project. I'll bring them back when we're done. Me. I'm sorry, but that's not how our library works. You need a library card, and we need to properly check out each item. Her expression hardened. Woman, do you know who I am? My husband is the largest donor to the school district fundraiser 3 years running. I'm sure your manager would understand that certain community members deserve flexibility. I'd dealt with entitled patrons before, but this was a new level. Me. Our policies apply to everyone, regardless of their contributions. If you'd like to check these books out, I'd be happy to help you get a library card if you don't already have one. Woman. This is ridiculous. These are just children's books. It's not like they're valuable. Besides, as a mother, I have more right to educational materials than anyone. Knowledge belongs to mothers first. We're the ones shaping the next generation. I was so taken aback by this bizarre statement that I momentarily lost my professional demeanor. Me. That's not how public libraries work. These books belong to the community, not to any individual. Woman. Well, perhaps that's the problem with society today. Too much sharing, not enough maternal authority. Before I could respond to this bewildering philosophy, she turned and walked out, setting off our malfunctioning security gate, which gave a half-hearted beep that she completely ignored. I immediately reported the incident to my manager, who checked our security cameras. Sure enough, they showed the woman walking out with what we estimated to be about 24 books. We filed a police report, not expecting much to come of it. Library book theft, while frustrating, isn't exactly a high priority for law enforcement. I figured we'd never see those books again, but I was wrong. Exactly 2 weeks later, the woman returned. I was helping a young reader find books about dinosaurs when I spotted her entering with the same large tote bag, looking entirely unconcerned. I alerted my manager via our intercom system, using our code phrase for security issues, assistance needed at the reference desk, and approached her. Me. Hello again. I see you've brought some books back. Woman. Yes, my children have finished with these. They were acceptable, though frankly, some contained questionable material for impressionable minds. I've noted these concerns for you. She began unloading books onto our return cart, and I immediately noticed something strange. Each book had a neatly printed label affixed to its cover, property of woman's full name. Some had additional notes stuck inside with comments like, approved by mother, or caution, contains evolution theory. I was speechless for a moment, which she apparently interpreted as gratitude. Woman. No need to thank me. I'm happy to help curate your collection with a mother's perspective. These are now properly labeled for other parents who might share my discerning standards. My manager arrived just as I found my voice again. Me? You can't put your name on library books. These don't belong to you, they belong to the library. Woman. I've simply improved them with proper guidance labels. The children of this community will benefit from knowing which books have passed maternal review. My manager, who has 20 years of experience dealing with difficult patrons, stepped in smoothly. Manager. Ma'am, we appreciate you returning these materials. but altering library books in any way is against our policies. We'll need to remove these labels. Woman: remove them? That would be destroying valuable guidance. Besides, I've claimed these books now. They're part of my personal educational curriculum. Manager: that's not how libraries work. These books are public property. Claiming them as your own could be considered theft. Woman: it's not theft if I'm improving them. Knowledge belongs to mothers first. We're the primary educators. By this point, several patrons were watching the exchange with undisguised interest. My manager maintained her professional calm. Manager: I understand you're passionate about your children's education, but these materials need to remain as they are for all patrons to use. Additionally, taking books without checking them out is against library policy and potentially illegal. The woman's face flushed with anger. Woman: are you threatening me? Over some children's books? This is absurd. She began gathering the books she had just returned, apparently intending to take them back. Manager: please leave those books here. They're library property. Woman: they're labeled with my name. That makes them mine. My manager nodded slightly to our security guard, who had positioned himself near the exit. She then pulled out her phone. Manager: if you attempt to take those books again, I'll have to call the police and report a theft in progress. We already filed a report when you took them the first time. The woman looked around, suddenly realizing she had an audience. Several patrons had their phones out, not even pretending they weren't recording the scene. Woman: this is harassment. I'm a respected member of this community. Manager: this is the enforcement of library policy, which applies to all community members equally. Finally, the woman seemed to realize she wasn't going to win this battle. She dropped the books she had picked up back onto the cart. Woman: fine. Keep your precious books. But I'll be speaking to the library board about this treatment. And good luck removing my labels. I used permanent adhesive. With that parting shot, she stormed out, leaving her designer tote bag behind in her haste. After she left, my manager and I examined the returned books. There were 27 in total, mostly children's science books and social studies materials. Each had been carefully labeled with her name, and many contained additional notes and highlighted passages she apparently disagreed with. The most surprising discovery came when we checked her abandoned tote bag for any remaining books. Instead of more library materials, we found a sheet of custom-printed labels, a library card that had expired 3 years ago, and most tellingly a half-finished manuscript titled A Mother's Guide to Reclaiming Educational Authority, Why Knowledge Belongs to Mothers First. It took our restoration specialist 2 days to carefully remove all the labels without damaging the books. We upgraded our security system the following week. The woman never returned to our library, but I heard from a colleague at the bookstore across town that she'd been banned there too for correcting books on their shelves with her own special labels. Sometimes I wonder if she ever finished her manuscript. Something tells me it wouldn't pass my own professional review for factual accuracy or, well, basic understanding of how public institutions work. But that's just my librarian perspective, which according to her philosophy, must rank several tiers below her maternal wisdom. At least the books found their way home, where they belong to everyone: mothers, fathers, children, and even childless librarians like me. Story 3. I've lived in Maple Ridge neighborhood for nearly a decade now. It's a quiet suburb with tree-lined streets, well-maintained homes, and families who've known each other for years. I run a small daycare from my home, caring for 5 children ranging from 2 to 6 years old. The parents in the neighborhood trust me, and I take that responsibility seriously. Every Wednesday, weather permitting, I take the kids on what we call our wilderness walk around the neighborhood. It's hardly wilderness, of course, but to preschoolers, every ant, leaf, and puddle is an adventure waiting to happen. We follow the same route each time down Oak Street, around the park, and back up Maple Avenue. The kids look forward to these walks all week. Last Wednesday started like any other. I had the children lined up too, holding on to our buddy rope on each side, and the youngest in the stroller I push. We were about halfway through our walk, examining interesting rocks and spotting shapes in the clouds, when we turned onto Elderberry Lane. That's when I first noticed her. A woman standing in her front yard, staring at us with unmistakable irritation. Her yard was immaculate, not a leaf or twig out of place. She was wearing gardening gloves and had a large, professional-grade leaf blower at her feet. As we approached, walking on the public sidewalk that ran in front of her house, she picked up the leaf blower. I didn't think much of it at first. Many people in the neighborhood were doing yard work that day. We were almost directly in front of her house when she suddenly stepped toward the sidewalk and called out to us. "Woman, excuse me, you need to cross to the other side of the street." I paused, confused by her request. The children looked up, curious about the interruption to our walk. Me, "I'm sorry?" "Woman, you need to cross the street. I'm about to start leaf blowing, and you're in my breeze path." I looked around. There were barely any leaves on her pristine lawn, and certainly none on the sidewalk where we were walking. "Me, will only be passing by for a moment. The kids are enjoying looking at the flowers in your garden." Her expression hardened. "Woman, look, I have a system. I blow from the house outward to the street. I can't have people wandering through while I'm working. It disrupts my pattern." "Me, will be quick, I promise. It's difficult to cross the street safely with 5 small children." "Woman, that sounds like a you problem. I scheduled this yard work for today specifically because it's usually quiet." "Me, it's a public sidewalk. We have every right to walk here." The woman's face flushed with anger. "Woman, do you know how much I pay in property taxes for this house? For this sidewalk?" "Me, the sidewalk is public property, regardless of your tax bill." She narrowed her eyes, then reached down and picked up her leaf blower. "Woman, fine. If you won't move, I'll just work around you." I expected her to wait until we passed, but instead, she started the leaf blower, a powerful model that roared to life with a deafening noise. The children covered their ears, startled by the sudden sound. Before I could react, she pointed the nozzle toward the sidewalk, directly at us. The powerful gust of air hit the children like a small hurricane. Hats flew off, the buddy rope was whipped from their hands, and they staggered backward, some falling onto their bottoms. One of the younger ones began to cry. "Me, hey, stop that right now." I tried to shout over the roar of the leaf blower, but she either couldn't hear me or was deliberately ignoring me. She continued blasting air in our direction, moving closer to the sidewalk. "Me, turn that off. You're scaring the children." The woman took another step forward, intensifying the airflow. The stroller, which I had let go of to help one of the fallen children, suddenly rolled backward from the force of the air. It tipped over onto its side with a crash that made my heart stop. Thankfully, the child in the stroller was securely strapped in, but he was upside down and screaming in terror. I lunged for the stroller while trying to keep the other children from scattering. By this time, the commotion had attracted attention. A neighbor from across the street was running toward us, and further down the block, a couple pushing their own stroller had stopped to watch. Finally, seeming to realize she had gone too far, the woman turned off the leaf blower. The sudden silence was almost as shocking as the noise had been. "Woman, see what happens when you don't listen. You should have just crossed the street when I asked nicely." I was shaking with anger as I righted the stroller and checked on the crying child inside. Thankfully, he wasn't injured, just frightened. "Neighbor, what on earth is going on here?" The neighbor from across the street had reached us. He looked from the woman with the leaf blower to me and the upset children. "Woman, these people refuse to respect my property rights. I was just doing my yard work." "Neighbor, by blasting air at small children. I saw the whole thing from my window. Are the kids okay?" "Me, they're scared, but I think they're all right." I turned to the woman, my voice trembling with barely controlled rage. "Me, what you did was dangerous and completely unacceptable. You could have seriously hurt these children." "Woman, Oh, don't be so dramatic. It's just air. Maybe next time you'll think twice about disrupting people's yard work. The couple with the stroller had approached us now. The man had his phone out. Man, I recorded that last part. You deliberately pointed that thing at these kids and knocked over a stroller. That's assault. Woman, assault? With a leaf blower? Don't be ridiculous. This is my property, and they were trespassing. Woman from couple, the sidewalk is public property, and even if they were trespassing, which they weren't, that wouldn't give you the right to attack children. Woman, I didn't attack anyone. I was cleaning my yard. Neighbor, by aiming directly at them? That's not how leaf blowing works. The woman from the couple was checking on the children while her partner was on the phone, apparently calling the police. The leaf blower woman noticed this, and her demeanor suddenly changed. Woman, oh come on, there's no need to involve the authorities. Everyone's fine. It was just a misunderstanding. Me, a misunderstanding. You deliberately blasted these kids with a leaf blower because they dared to walk on a public sidewalk. Then you knocked over a stroller. Woman, that was an accident. I didn't mean to knock it over. Neighbor, but you did mean to blast them with air? The woman crossed her arms defensively. Woman, look, I have a specific way I like to maintain my yard. I don't think it's too much to ask for people to respect that. Neighbor, by terrorizing children, that's your solution. While this conversation was happening, I was gathering the children, trying to calm them down. The little boy from the stroller had stopped crying, but was clinging to me tightly. Within about 10 minutes, a police car pulled up. 2 officers got out and approached our group. The leaf blower woman immediately stepped forward. Woman, officers, I'm glad you're here. These people refused to leave my property after I asked them nicely. Officer, ma'am, we received a call about someone using a leaf blower as a weapon against children. Woman, a weapon? That's absurd. It's a yard tool. The man with the phone stepped forward. Man, I have video, officer. He showed the officers his phone, and they watched the footage with serious expressions. One officer turned to me. Officer, are you in charge of these children? Me, yes, I run a licensed daycare. We were on our weekly neighborhood walk when this woman demanded we cross the street because we were in her breeze path. When we didn't, she turned the leaf blower on us and knocked over the stroller. The officer looked at the woman. Officer, is that accurate, ma'am? Woman, they're exaggerating. I was just doing yard work. If they happen to be in the way, that's not my fault. Officer, the video shows you deliberately aiming the leaf blower at them. That stroller could have rolled into the street. Woman, it was their responsibility to hold on to it properly. The officers exchanged a glance. Officer, ma'am, I'm going to need to see your ID. Woman, for what? Doing yard work on my own property. Officer, for reckless endangerment of children. Her face paled. Woman, reckless. Are you serious? It's a leaf blower. Officer, a leaf blower is a powerful tool that, when misused, can cause injury. According to multiple witnesses and video evidence, you deliberately aimed it at small children. Woman, this is ridiculous. I pay your salary with my taxes. Officer, ma'am, please provide your ID. We can discuss this further at the station if you prefer. Realizing the situation was serious, she finally went inside to get her ID. While she was gone, the officers took statements from me and the witnesses. When she returned, they wrote her a citation for reckless endangerment. Woman, I'll fight this in court. This is harassment. Officer, that's your right, ma'am. The court date is on the citation. I'd recommend consulting with an attorney. As the officers prepared to leave, one of them turned to me. Officer, would you like us to escort you and the children safely past this property? Me, yes, thank you. That would be appreciated. The woman watched, fuming, as we continued our walk with a police escort. The children, recovered from their fright, thought having police officers walk with us was the most exciting part of the day. Later that afternoon, the parents of my daycare children were understandably upset when I explained what had happened. Two of them decided to file formal complaints against the woman. Within days, her attempt to defend her breeze path had become the talk of the neighborhood. A week later, I learned through the neighborhood grapevine that she had been ordered to take anger management classes as part of her plea deal. She still lives on Elderberry Lane, but now whenever we take our Wednesday walks, we cross the street before reaching her house, not because we have to, but because some battles aren't worth fighting. The children don't mind. They're just happy to be on their adventure, spotting shapes in the clouds and collecting interesting rocks, blissfully unaware of property lines and breeze paths.